Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day.
FUMFA.
We were so quiet there for a moment. Happy Father's Day, Chris.
Thanks so much.
Yes, and happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there who will be watching this. It's been a gorgeous, very warm day, and just kind of a perfect Father's Day weekend. Yesterday was a little overcast, but it was still quite nice out,
Yeah,
for a good portion of the day. So hopefully, all of the fathers are just kind of like winding down their activities for the day, maybe having a drink, having a snack, having a dessert, a dinner,
hopefully
tuning in.
they're tired of the children now and ready to listen to some literature.
Yes, exactly. Chris, why don't you tell us about your day, your Father's Day?
Well, okay, so I got up and my daughter Frankie put together a scavenger hunt for me. She had all these little strips of paper with poems on them, leading me to the next place. So I was everywhere. I was upstairs, I was downstairs, I was outside, I was inside, I was down in the garage, I was up all over the damn place. And then at the end, my prize was this delightful sock puppet.
Oh my God!
This is Alberta,
Alberta!
the donkey.
I love it.
I have a thing.
Hi, Alberta!
I'm partial to donkeys. I like donkeys, and so.
That is the best Father's Day gift ever. That is the cutest thing. No, talk to me, Alberta. How you doing, Alberta?
So I'm still working on Alberta's vocal qualities. Maybe next week. Alberta
we're still working on Alberta.
It's a little early. It's like it doesn't happen. It's not like Kermit spoke on day one.
Oh, you know what? You're right. I'm so sorry. We need to give Alberta some time. But that's so incredible. Good. I applaud Frankie for an incredible Father's Day gift. Lovely scavenger hunt. Amazing sock puppet. Yes. Good evening. Welcome. Some friends are coming in. Yeah. Philip J. Curtis, Midnight.
AKA Elizabeth Hills. Philip. Oh, there's Philip again. I hope Chance doesn't know what he says.
Oh, no.
It's already starting.
He's already starting on Chance. Oh, wow. That beer's looking good, Chris. Whoa. Nice. Nice. Oh, very nice. We have a hello to Stephanie. Madeline Artenberg is here. So we are so excited. We have two. What was that?
I said, good job, Stephanie, getting the word out.
Yes, very good. We want to have a packed, overflowing chat tonight, an overflowing audience full of happy listeners. Yeah. Oh, it's been a great weekend. I saw my dad as well, and we had wine, we had cheese, we had delicious Italian sandwiches, and ice cream cake. We had so much fun, and as I told you before, Chris, I got him a greeting card full of cheese puns, and it was very cheesy. It was amazing.
An example of cheese pun.
What's that?
An example.
Oh, yes, of course. So the front of the card said, "You're one of the Gouda ones," and it was a little Gouda saying that, and then the cheddar responds, "You cheddar believe it."
And there's Mom. Thanks, Mrs. Schneider.
Oh, Mom and Dad are out there. That means Dad's out there too. Happy Father's Day. Cheers. I got the mango White Claw this time. That's the flavor we wanted me to try last week, but I only had chilled the blackberry flavor. So living all my mango dreams now. Yes. So yes, people are coming in, and it is officially 8:00. So it is time to officially welcome you to FUMFA 56, Chris.
Whoa!
Whoa. And we have as our guest tonight, Sonya Huber. We are so excited to have her with us. She is a professor, a mentor with Fairfield University Master of Fine Arts. And we're just delighted to have her with us. And we have a special guest with us tonight, Stephanie Dickinson. So we're so excited to hear from their readings and, of course, have our Q&A time later tonight. But Chris, can you tell us what else is coming up soon?
I sure can. Next week, we are going to do our hybrid open mic night with our special friend Midnight.
Woo!
And the folks from Put It Into Chat.
So excited.
Now, these are our performance poets, and they're going to be on here doing their performance poetry, and a whole bunch of folks. Like, I don't know how many we got, like a dozen people or something.
Oh, man. We got 12, 13, 14, 15 people. Really incredible folks.
Full night of performance poetry. So check that out. And they're hot stuff.
Woo!
Yes, and Philip says, I'm so nervous.
No.
He does this every other week. He does it on Zoom. And he runs that show like, smooth business. He is smooth.
He's the coolest MC out there.
And no, it's going to be awesome. And then we're off for July 4th, and then we're back for another open mic, and we're going to have a bunch of FUMFA people.
Woo!
And so that's going to be awesome. That's on the 11th, and then we're going to have another where it's open mic month.
It's group reading summer. Like, we're having like a little cookout, like a literary cookout together in the summertime. We're doing fun group readings. We're trying to get people together, and we're just pumped. We're loving it.
That's right. We're going to do a whole bunch of folks from the Westport Writers Workshop.
Yeah,
going to read their stuff. And Philip says second and fourth Wednesdays of the month. Let's make it a night to remember.
Yes. And you guys should follow Philip J. Curtis Midnight on Facebook, also on Instagram, and you can get that Zoom link and password and pop in there, share your work, or just go in to visit. But Philip will get you to read.
He's gonna get you to spit one out.
Yeah. We're excited. And also next week, we're going to have some of our some returning guests on there, including Jane Spoken Word. She'll be popping in there. Stacy Dyson will be reading something as well. I'm sure Philip himself will share a piece or two. And also Lona Jack Bumar, who is in the crowd tonight. Hey, Lona. She'll be sharing something as well, along with all these other incredible folks from who are regulars that Put It Into Chat. So it's going to be so cool.
Phil Ginsberg will show it. I don't know.
Hey, maybe he will. Oh, if you missed Phil Ginsberg last week, if you missed if you missed any of our readings, you gotta go check them out. Phil Ginsberg is another friend that we met through Put It Into Chat. So good times, really good times. But coming back to our amazing guests for tonight, like I said, we are welcoming tonight Sonya Huber and Stephanie Dickinson, and we are so excited to hear them read. And you know what, Chris? I'm going to go ahead and read Stephanie's bio for us.
Go for it.
Yes. Oh, I need to get it queued up. Hold on. I introduced my. Okay, let's get Stephanie up here while I am getting this. I'm ready for everything.
Are you going to do it, or am I going to do it?
We have dueling buttons sometimes. There she is. Welcome, Stephanie.
Welcome.
Hey, listen, before you read her official bio, I just want to say that I have known Stephanie for a long, long time. And she's one of a person I consider one of these angels that appears in your life and helps struggling, deserving authors get their stuff out there. She and her partner in crime Rob Cook, and I hope he's doing well. Give him my love. They have published. They were the first people to publish my stories. They published my novel Carry On. Then they published Shriver, and if it weren't for this lady right here, Shriver would not be a major motion picture coming out sometime next year. So she's the bomb.
That is truly, truly awesome, Stephanie.
That's your unofficial bio. You can read it.
Yeah.
It was already an honor, but to be reminded of those fabulous details, Chris, such a pleasure to have you, Stephanie. All right, here's the official bio. Stephanie Dickinson, raised on an Iowa farm, now lives in New York City with the poet Rob Cook and their senior citizen feline, Vallejo. Her novels, Half Girl and Lust series, are published by Spoitendevel. Since her feminist noir Love Highway. Other books include Heat, an interview with Jean Seberg, Flashlight Girls Run from New Meridian Arts Press. She received distinguished story citations in Best American Short Stories, Best American Essays, and numerous pushcart anthology citations. In 2020, she won the Bitter Oleander Poetry Book Prize, and TBO has bought out Blue Swan, Black Swan, the Trackle Diaries. Her Razor Wire Wilderness, a true crime memoir based on her longtime correspondence with inmates at the Edna Mahan Correctional Facility for Women, launched on June 1st from Callisto Gaia Press. To support the Holy Flow, she has long labored in the cubicle world. Since the outbreak of the coronavirus, she has worked remotely from her East Village Red Room. Along with Rob Cook, she edits Rain Mountain Press. An honor, a pleasure to have you, Stephanie. Thank you.
Huzzah.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me, and welcome to my kitchen. I'm sorry I don't have books behind me, but I'm going to read 4 pieces from the Blue Swan, Black Swan, the Trackle Diaries, and then a piece of the Razor Wire Wilderness. The Trackle Diaries is a series of prose poems that delve into the life story of George Trackle, the Austrian expressionist poet, a visionary. So each begins with an epigram followed by a poem. He's perhaps best known for his poem Grodet, which he wrote shortly before he died of a cocaine overdose at age 27. I think his biography fascinated me, and it suits a 21st century sensibility. He became an ardent user of alcohol and drugs and introduced opium to his sister Greet, his pianist sister, with whom he had an exceptionally close relationship, and some scholars consider it incestuous. So some of these pieces are from Greek's point of view, some from Trackle's point of view, and I'll read the epigraphs first. Financial difficulties began after Trackle's father, Tobias, died, and the family's successful hardware business proved insolvent. His drug use, depression, and drinking accelerated, yet amid the strife, he developed his mature poetic style. He returned to Salzburg as a dispensing pharmacist working at the White Angel apothecary. The White Angel. The White Angel stays half empty. I've brought myself to this place, delivered myself naked, expecting the human soul of this town to embrace me, supposing the fountain would remember my affection for its eyeless golden fish. No rest for my flesh distilling the rhubarbs and aloes, the gingers. No rest for the blue deer of my verse shot by the hunter and left in the woods to rot with the warm earth and larva. Tumescent jellies feasting galaxies. I play a duet with the mortal and pestle, weighing brains for toothache powders. I sell 1 tin of tar ointment, 1 lavender sachet. Ibsen and Dostoevsky visit as I mix a paregoric of alcohol and opium and set fire to the pan. An unholy smoke rises and I inhale. The anglerfish must find the female and fuse with her or die. They are one form in 2 beings. Sister, I walk into our childhood, the high-ceilinged room with the practice piano, and seat myself on the bench beside you. Teach me, brother, to make music. To play an F sharp, you must risk everything. B flat, you must dare to transgress as if your fingers are white ibises devouring their own eggs. The sun falling through the trees, a Lydian chord that swallows green from the air as light seeps into your bloodstream. E flat, the sweet chocolate dough is exactly that. And then, enchantress, the layer of apricot jam. The key of D minor, so much blackness you need your hands to see with, a charred bird, words like wrought iron doors slamming. After you close the keyboard and vanish, I swallow more smoke. A hyacinth drizzles its maimed scent, the breath of a stillborn infant. I wear discolorations on my forehead, plush bruises from too much drunkenness and too many ravens awakening. This next piece is from the point of view, of the sister Greet. She had trained to be a concert pianist, and that route was closed to her because she had such emotional instability. But she married a man 30 years her senior, who extensively to help her with her music career. And this imagines their bridal bed. The kisses of God. Owls come out when the moon is up, making a murmuring sound. They hunt in fog and storms. He bids me to make room for him in the bridal bed. Child, he says, beautiful child. I make myself stay beside him. When I want to vanish into the guts of the piano and hide between the seventh chord and diminished fifth. His feet are tiny, his toes cold as those stones, his body is thick, yet his chest hardly wider than the pillow. His ears stick out like quills. I am giving him my new skin to replace his old, my moisture to wet his crust. I pray for the white hairs he leaves on the pillow. Spittle grows between his lips, a white spider drops its web onto my face. He gives me his kisses with his pointy tongue, it quivers and darts. The kisses of God. Yet I'm used to falling asleep beside him, but I fight sleep. The claw toe, his shanks clamping me. In the farthest part of the night, he rises high into the air over the bed, partially feathered on his thin wings. He will have me. The moon silhouettes me against the sky as he makes his sallies back and forth, up and down the scales. Circle of chords. The black key chords are sharps, and now they are flats. He tells me Litz has appeared to him, ordering him to take one more, his last bride. My husband will feed once more and inspire me. Okay, let me just see what time it is. Okay. Comrades. Trackle was sent to the Eastern Front as a dispensing pharmacist, where he saw all the horrors of the early part of World War I, and his comrades often made fun of his poetry writing. So, the smell of the battlefield after mud, swarms of black flies and mosquitoes, the river flat like dust, vines strangle the barking of farmers' dogs. The dead must bury themselves. Ravens circle, dropping down. Friends who rolled their cigarettes yesterday now invite the churning, fanning wings to their carcasses. We've come to a creek where a recently gypsy mother bathed her 3 daughters. The tavern door opens. My comrades tell me I talk too much of poetry that doesn't exist in this world. Let them sleep on the earth beside the fire. Let them lift their cups. Who has seen black asteroids in a thistle patch? Oh, our Trakel has, they laugh. Who has witnesses blue angels farting in the dreaming eyes of priests? Our man here has. Taller, shorter, slender, and fat. My comrades' faces are rosily amber. Their good natures trade insults. We drink until our pockets empty. My comrades and I stagger out into the sun. It is still day. I see them in the trees, 2 peasant women raised by the neck from opposite ends of the same rope thrown over a limb. Slowly, they go up and down until both women's necks break, twigs and leaves in their hair. Men in Austrian uniforms are watching, their trousers wrapped around their calves. The soldiers say, and my comrades agree, Serbs should be boiled in cauldrons and stuck on forks and eaten. I touch the revolver's wide nostril. Its sooty black is a burnt church. And the last one of the Trackle pieces is called Blue Light in Graphite. And it describes Trackle's suicide by an overdose of cocaine. Blue light in Krakow. The blue has changed. The wind is dying in it. The cocaine my left nostril inhales, a lightning strike that separates my rib cage. I breathe in more lightning and a long forest thunderstorm breaks. My fingers go numb. The brain fights, cuts off my vision, marshals what remains. In my throat, the taste of warm bread. I'm about to cross over. I have come this far. Who will I be if I am Trackle no longer? Will I mix with the water? Shall I join with the starry sky or the dirt? Will an orange Garibaldi fish with blue freckles deposit eggs in my hair? Shall my death spark a tiny flame full of extinct suns? Will I see the white bellies of dolphins above me? Are they God? Is that my father beckoning me, the figure of light walking through a field of sunflowers? Now a stream threads the earth, the sun rolling down in waves. Are they God? Father, it is me, George. He scratches his bespectacled head that a bright nimbus envelops. Turning away, he disappears into the sunflower's tall stalks. Father? I am still here, my bodily form not yet excrement. Nothingness surrounds me, not even a crow sounds. Where's the plane I used to imagine on the ceiling? I wander over bare stones. Something pecks at my thigh. Standing by the dry gully, I think of the sweet seller's wife, the woman who gave me marzipan for my first verses. Must my disfigured soul endure an eternity here? And I'm going to read a shorter piece from Razor Wire Wilderness, which is called a true crime memoir. I'm not exactly sure if that's true, but the heart of it is a murder that happened in 2006 of Jennifer Moore, age 18, was abducted after a night of underage drinking and taken by small-time pimp Draymond Coleman to a CBD hawk in a hotel room that he shared with his girlfriend, 20-year-old Crystal Rorden. He beat, raped, and murdered Jennifer while Crystal watched. Could she have stopped it? When I saw Crystal's arrest photograph, which appears on the cover of Razor Wire Wilderness, I knew I wanted to understand her and explore the lethal collusion of the worlds inhabited by two young women close in age. I didn't realize when I first wrote Crystal at the Edna Mann Correctional Facility for Women in Clinton, New Jersey, that I would tell not only her story, but that of the life and love in Maximum Compound. And I just want to make sure, okay. Understand, these aren't the femme fatales and sex-selling dahlias, not the thieves and drug dealers, not the welfare cheats or DUI violators. These women are the violent offenders. Maximum Compound women arrive encumbered with their crimes and the weight of their sentences. They arrive put upon and willing to use anyone. It's a rule-bound world, a world where dance competitions and making birthday chili and rice for your girlfriend coexist with fight blood on the floor. Although time is filled with a job, a routine, a mess hall schedule, real time stales. It doesn't flow, it pools around you, goes stagnant. Each day is similar from the view of a locked world, a day hard and long to get through, and the year is flying away. There are no hickories or maples or quaking aspen, no huge-eyed deer, no smell of burning pretzel dough, no strolling into a Starbucks for a coffee tall, no dressing to go out looking edible as tiramisu. The outside world stands still, remembered. The inmates in Maximum Compound number the absence from the world in decades. I've been a friend to this prison planet, this Maximum Compound, where the most dangerous women in New Jersey live, the ones the media portray as topping the depravity index, women like Crystal. Who is Crystal Reardon? Crystal Reardon is a 34-year-old female, 5'9", 150 pounds, serving a 30-year sentence in EMCF. She's the felon I have made a commitment to. I promised to be there for her. She's the daughter of a French prostitute and an Irish drug dealer. A 4-year-old, her skin pink as a rabbit's eye. She's a rabbit, shivering, ready to scram and take cover. The child with one older sister and one younger. The girl who is the middle sister with lice, the one molested by her uncle. She's the girl removed from the home and put into foster care, the one adopted by a rich couple. She's the basketball natural, a role model turned adolescent rebel, a truant, an embarrassment to her adoptive parents. She's a graduate of the Elan Residential School for Troubled Teens, an 18-year-old blonde in the Big Apple selling herself on Eros.com, the wide-hip goddess sex worker that all the men love. The girl who an ex-con pimp fought another pimp for. She's merchandise. She's the prostitute lover of Draymond Coleman, the one who is like heat, the one who sees. She's the 20-year-old having threesomes with her lover, the ex-con she can't live without. She's July 25th, 2006, a forever mistake. She's the shabby Weehawken Park Avenue hotel waiting for him to come home, the one who pays for his cab when he returns at dawn with a scantily dressed teenager, who saw Jennifer's anguish after the door to the room closed, the girl who left the room for a soda while another girl fought for her life, the girl who knows what a room after a murder is like. The air quiets, the downpour abruptly ceases, and the walls uncover their eyes. She is the one who feels for Jennifer's pulse, the tiny wing beaten, in the wrist gone. Everything her life could still be depends upon her actions now. The one who watched her lover having sex with Jennifer's cooling body, the girl who carries the horror of that room everywhere. Jennifer was no match for Dre, Crystal says, as if taking weird pride in her lover's brute strength. Crystal is the one who flipped the mattress over and sold sex in the bed Jennifer died in. She had no choice. She'd traveled to the kingdom of the damned. She's a people pleaser, the one with numbness in her head, weak-minded, and that's why she admits that on the morning of the murder she was angry that Dre hadn't brought weed with him, and she'd given him money, and her body was an ATM. She is the girl who, after the murder of Jennifer Moore, after the disposal of her body, waited alone in a Harlem hot sheet hotel while Dre went to buy weed. The girl I see on July 27th peering out from the cover of the New York Daily News. Her eyes are wells of fear, wide and vulnerable. She is the story I've been telling over and over for years, the girl who frames every anecdote in the language of the victim. Give her a few specifics, she hides herself inside the truncated sentence. Girl who speaks in a throaty Lauren Bacall register, the abridged version of her adolescence. The girl I have never met, the girl I care deeply for, the girl whose soul I think I know. Let's see if I can read it. And I'm almost done. All these years, and I have never directly asked why, when Jennifer was screaming, did you turn the sound of the TV up? Nor have I directly asked, why didn't you try to help Jennifer? And who am I? Why have I committed myself to Crystal Reardon? I'm old enough to be Crystal's mother. I'm a child of the farm, Foursquare religion, the girl whose widowed mother teaches junior high English. I'm the youngest with two older brothers, the girl who still wanders the ditches and fields, all the while yearning for the crazy rough side of colored lights, the girl who waits for the mail trucks coming at 11 a.m., then talks to herself through the long afternoon that lasts a century. I am the 18-year-old girl leaping without looking, the girl who hitchhiked to North Carolina from Iowa telling no one. I am the girl meeting Michael, a 19-year-old boy with long black hair, a boy who says our eyes match, their dark milk running through our fates. We are setting off to a Thanksgiving party. I know unluckiness, Jupiter aligning with Mars, a male perpetrator, that kind of willfulness and bad luck in unequal measures. It will always be Thanksgiving night, when the girl born, the healthiest of my mother's three children, is rebirthed, this time maimed. I am the girl who said goodbye to her left arm in a bathroom, who doesn't know when she takes her last bath, eats her last meal, and brushes her teeth for the last time with two working arms. I am the hitchhiking girl who opened her legs to rapists and one-night stands, the girl who is forever and only the shot girl, girl with a paralyzed arm. I am the girl who threw her life away on Thanksgiving Day, a forever mistake. Thank you.
Whoa! Stephanie, powerful, vivid, scary, but deep and just incredible, incredible writing. Thank you so much for everything that you shared tonight.
Yeah, Stephanie, like really quick, we're going to talk a lot more later on, but she got Crystal got how many years?
Well, she received 30 years, but she'll
Right.
have, under the 85% rule, she'll only do, have to do like 25 of those years.
Still,
Wow.
still a lot. And
It's a huge,
how
it's a huge
many
thing.
did Dre get?
he got 50, which is, they were up for the death penalty in the New Jersey
Wow.
stopped it. So
That's so intense. We're gonna We'll
extremely.
talk more about that later, but I just wanted to get that out there. Thanks, Stephanie.
Thank you, Stephanie.
That was great.
Thank you.
Incredibly
Relax now.
intense and powerful writing. Whoa, Chris, that was amazing.
Indeed.
All right. Well, we're going to be transitioning now to Sonya. Welcome, Sonya.
Hello.
So great to have you tonight. What a pleasure.
Good to be here.
Yes. And Chris, will you do the honors of sharing Sonya's bio with us?
My pleasure.
While you're pulling that up, I just want the audience to notice that we've got a black tank top thing going on today between our two readers. I love it. It's very, very intense, very, very cool.
I thought about wearing mine, but
I wish I had a black dress on. That would have been very cool.
all right, we got to think about this stuff ahead of time next time.
I know. We need to plan it out. All right, go ahead, Chris. Sorry.
Right, yes. Sonya Huber is the author of 6 books, including the award-winning essay collection on chronic pain called Pain Woman Takes Your Keys and Other Essays from a Nervous System, and the forthcoming Supremely Tiny Acts, a Memoir in a Day. Her other books include Open Nobody, Cover Me, a health insurance memoir, and The Backwards Research Guide for Writers. Her work has appeared in the New York Times, Brevity, Creative Nonfiction, and many other outlets. She teaches at Fairfield University, and, of course, in the Fairfield Low Residency MFA program, also known as FUMFA. Welcome.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Huber.
All right.
We'll leave you to it, Sonya. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Hey, everybody. Thanks for being on Sunday night here. So I'm going to read. This is my first time reading from the forthcoming book. This is what it looks like, Supremely Tiny Acts, a Memoir of a Day. You can pre-order it at Ohio State University Press website. It's coming out in October. So the book, what you need to know for what I'm going to read is that I was arrested in a climate action where Extinction Rebellion was an organization that dropped a boat in the middle of Times Square, and a bunch of people glued themselves and chained themselves to the boat to draw attention to global warming. And I was not glued or chained to the boat. I was just sitting near the boat, but I was also arrested. So this is in kind of a stream of consciousness style, and this is like the action itself. So I'll just dive right in. Oh, I should time myself. Okay. Photos of me from the event are hilarious. I look like a daunted child, eyes wide and mouth a serious little line. I held a corner of the flag of Malawi and chanted along with everyone as I sat there on the asphalt. It was mostly impossible not to stare at the wall of pedestrians, the panorama of people arrayed on the crosswalks and all around us, almost like a kind of woven human nest, layered and thick with faces and hands and expressions and chanting and signs wrapping around us. They were holding iPhones, looking at us with delight, yelling with joy, taking pictures, chanting, giving us thumbs up, a wall of people and noise between us and the stretching glass and concrete of the buildings, the noise behind us and around us, filling the sky above us like a column. Then the setup people rolled away the orange fencing they had strewn and stretched across the roadways. A guy with a shaggy afro and squarish glasses, wearing a worn gray canvas jacket with lots of pockets, held a bullhorn and led chants, facing us and turning also, trying to get the crowd around us involved. And I liked the way he smiled with sly joy as he chanted that we weren't going to stay silent near the end of the world. And next to him, a serious guy with a shorn head stood with a big tray of equipment slung from a belt and held a television camera. And another person held a long microphone. All I could see were his arms with the boom mic wavering and nudging like the nose of an animal. We chanted, "The seas are rising, and so are we." In the crowd of pedestrians, a guy nearest me held up his phone and filmed, and the sheer happiness on his face was like we had given him the best present ever. He couldn't stop laughing, his eyes and mouth wide, looking at other people near him as if to say, "Can you believe this?" And there were girls chewing gum and filming, and their phones with lavender and pink cases and those pop socket buttons and manicured pastel nails, and they sort of floated by and disappeared like a mirage. I wasn't prepared for how overjoyed people would be to see us, that they would look almost relieved to see traffic stop in Times Square, because this, after all, was necessary. This was all interesting and overwhelming because we'd been prepped in our action training to deal with angry pedestrians and tourists, people upset to be interrupted in the middle of their day, and I get that. Maybe someone would be late to an appointment and late to an important and serious doctor's appointment, and that was a scary thing in and of itself to contemplate. That we were stopping not only tourists, but also people with major things to do, like their own court dates or tearful lunch meetings. So maybe that was happening silently in the lines of cars radiating outward from the intersection. People behind wheels, swearing and looking at watches and craning their necks above the steering wheel, like you do when you're in a long jam, like if only you could see the problem, then you'd feel better. In our action training, we were advised to be empathetic and de-escalate, to apologize and say this was necessary and it would end. But I hadn't counted on the joy. Orange cardboard circles with holes cut in the middle were painted like life preservers, and they were passed around, but it turned out we had too many things to hold, so they were scattered around the boat on the pavement, along with strips of garbage bag or rubber that I think were supposed to be seaweed. And then later, after the police arrived, someone crouch ran and picked them up. TV cameras appeared from nowhere, panning around us, and a reporter asked me a question, holding a camera and a microphone. And I don't even know what I said, but I'm sure it wasn't very stirring. I treated it as a pop quiz and was stiff and scared like I was going to give the wrong answer. It was good that I was on one end of the boat by happenstance, the back end of the boat, and the most photo-ready picture of the event was from the side of the boat to my left, where you could see the Extinction Rebellion logo, and the people glued to the mast and chanting and being awesome in a way that I didn't have in me, because I hadn't been arrested before. I was sitting on the pavement on top of my raincoat. And then someone gave me yet another little flag on a stick to hold. I don't even remember what it was, so I was holding a lot of things. We ended up making a barrier with the flag so that they could be visible. And I was holding one corner of the Malawi flag, and the other corner was being held by an older guy with a beard named Sean. On my other side was R, and we were all part of the circle of about 50 in the human barrier. I don't remember how long it took for the police to arrive, but it was a special unit that apparently deals both with terrorism and with demonstrators. Could that be right? I might have gotten that wrong. To them, of course, this was not impressive, just a day at work. They gathered like you see on murder shows, hanging around in clumps that looked like a dangerous cocktail party, chatting and not really doing anything, looking at what they could see with their police eyes about what had to happen to clear away this blockage. They seemed to be waiting for something or someone else to arrive, in no hurry to do anything at all. Then a more important police guy arrived, looking off into the distance, and you can tell by who had clumped together that there were various levels of authority, and the higher people didn't have to wear uniforms. There were gobs of police, and all of them seemed to be on their phones, or maybe trying to look like police officers. Is there such a thing as a cop with an imposter syndrome? A police officer hauled out a black portable speaker and set it very near me in front of a parked car at the street corner near the base of a traffic light. It faced toward us, and a very loud electric voice chanted over and over that we'd be arrested if we didn't move out of the street, A recorded message they must have had to use many times, at a deafening volume that made everything feel more on edge. The photo of me might have been taken after that noise started because it was challenging to keep one's thoughts together over that racket. It was hard to think. Then the police were holding stacks of white plastic handcuffs like big double-looped zip ties. They started telling us one by one to get up, and they worked in groups of 4 or 5, but they started from the other side of the boat. We were told in our training not to resist arrest, that going limp was going to lead to higher charges, and that wasn't part of the strategy for growing this movement. I've been living as if my actions are a note in a bottle to a future that might not exist. Schrodinger's tomorrow. And I've been in that headspace my whole life, the hovering discomfort beginning in the 1980s when I was 8 or 9 and first understood the Cold War, writing to President Reagan to try to convince him that if there was a nuclear war, he would also not have jelly beans, a candy-based case for saving humanity. And in response, months later, I got a formatted newsletter from the White House about kids and politics that was complete bullshit. And I knew it even then, and I threw it away. I wasn't precious enough to save any of those records of my early activism because that was not the kind of family I was from, not the kind that recognized itself in resistance. And my anger at society was a furtive secret. That was before I started making hand-drawn T-shirts with quotes about the dangers of nuclear war, copying quotes from a library book onto a Hanes T-shirt from Kmart with toothpicks dipped in fabric paint. And then I wore those under loose flannels to school at a time when I think I was the only political shirt-wearing person in a place where my graduating class alone was over 700 people. I went to a farm town high school in Illinois, a massive and pretty authoritarian place south of Chicago, without a student newspaper, known as having the best discipline in the state. Not Evanston. At some point after I stopped curling my hair with a curling iron in the late 1980s style, someone carved Lesbo in the dark green paint of my locker in the hallway near the band room. I kept that to myself. I was always afraid about doing my tiny things, leaving hand-drawn flyers in the grocery store about the dangers of dioxin bleach in the paper products and chlorofluorocarbons. But I always did them anyway, compulsed as only a Catholic girl raised on visions of saintly bodily sacrifice can be, like St. Lucy holding her eyeballs on a platter, the wounds of stigmata as honor, raised in that suffering equals love and that justice requires a blood sacrifice. It often does. In 1988, because of where I grew up and how, I didn't know there were stores where you could buy T-shirts with slogans about social change. I got on a mailing list after I joined Amnesty International and then subscribed to the Utne Reader. And then I found T-shirt stores in Minneapolis that had a catalog you could send away for. This just kept going on and on for decades, during which time I acquired many printed cotton T-shirts that say things like, I walked the line with Local 169, and fuck fascism, and not today, patriarchy, to which my husband Cliff always responds, how about tomorrow? Okay, I'll just do a little bit more. There's an engine in me that makes me speak up, that is equal to my fear of speaking up. I took Kant and Christ very seriously, even though I just recently learned that Kant is some kind of racist, and he's been rolling around in my head for 30 years. What can we do against the roaring train of destruction? In grad school, I researched and wrote the story of my German socialist grandfather. After growing up in that Republican small town in Illinois and wanting activist mentors, it turned out I had one, but I'd never met him or really been told anything about him. And my mom didn't really even know much because she left home at 16. I researched and interviewed and dug and stitched the story together and wrote a book to explain to my mother what her father's life meant. And then I had something more to measure myself against. But I also had someone half imagined to talk to understand the world with, to whisper the answers I never got. The comforting fiction that people tell themselves that if it were the Nazi era, I'd speak out, Like hell you would. This is another test right now. Democracy in flames. It's nice to get arrested and show up, but I know the really hard thing is organizing these actions and making plans for actions that are necessary and meaningful. What I'm doing is okay. I'm mindful of my body, my energy level, 48 and usually in pain, my limitations and what I can give, yet always trying to find a little bit more, working the line between what I can do and what I can't. Cliff looked at me with alarm, and both Cliff and Ivan were worried when I told them I wanted to be arrested. And they looked at each other as if to say, okay, this is what mom does. And then after I got through it, I think they were proud. I'm always pushing the edges. Thank you.
Sonya, you have more time if you'd like to share more with us. Incredibly wonderful stuff.
Okay, all right, I'll read another page. How about that?
Sure, you could read even more if you want to. You have time.
Okay.
Sure.
I'm used to being in the chapel where we just want to get done quick as possible.
We want to luxuriate in this. I'm into this. I want to hear more. All right.
Okay, so this is then back to this next part is when I'm going to court. So here we are, and I'm headed to court, and I haven't even had my first swallow of coffee. I pour coffee with chicory and mix it with Hershey's cocoa powder in a thermos, which is my latest coffee concoction to distract myself from the fact that I gave up dairy as a way to reduce inflammation because of the rheumatoid arthritis. I've tried every goddamn thing in my coffee and every mixture to replicate the simple joy of half and half. And as I'm stirring, a text on the blue-colored secure Signal app pops up on my phone from a person in our court group who wants to read a long statement in court today about global warming and urges everyone to make long speeches, which would make our day in court endless. I get it. In some ways, this was the point of the action, to register somewhere in the grinding machine that we are not okay with dying like this, that we are not okay with killing millions, that we demand to be heard. Yet muscles clench in my heart and gut because, damn it, I've got shit to do. What will happen if our case gets continued? I had to cancel classes today, and it's a privilege to have a flexible schedule, but clearing a day was a lot, and I can't keep doing it. The flexibility of the schedule is balanced with a careening series of days and blocks of meetings and events and emails and assignments at such a pace that it's usually summer or Christmas by the time I realize my car needs an oil change and that all the AA batteries have exploded in the kitchen junk drawer months ago. I let myself do this, get arrested, because I finally got all the promotions they can give me. So I felt safer doing something that was outside my comfort zone. Should I text back and say something? The moms are such a drag, I can hear the youngins say. Those 20-something white boys so on fire, and yet in a way so bad at listening, and most intent on telling us what it means to be a revolutionary. Still, they're so much better than the boys in the 1990s. But now some of those boys have evolved. Some of these guys understand gender politics in the way my crew didn't. There was one young man in our second XR civil disobedience training who tried to talk to me and was so beautiful and maybe 19 or maybe in his 20s. And I thought he was high, but it turned out he was just incredibly peaceful, an actor. And he was in my affinity group, and he was one who wanted to look at all the flags we were given to hold in the park and to think about the racial dynamics. And good for him for caring. Our affinity group had formed at the second meeting right before the action in a community space somewhere in New York, a cafe on a leafy side street with brick buildings in a light rain, with images of revolutionaries painted in murals on the walls. As I'm drinking my coffee, another text shows up that says, I need to get done by noon to get my kid from school in upstate New York at 3. And she, I assume it is a she, doesn't apologize. And I let out a whoosh of air. Someone said it, with no guilt or angst or self-deprecation, to the younger boys to alert them to the fact that some of us have things to do every hour we're awake. I start to break apart a gluten-free bagel, Trader Joe's, and surprisingly fantastic, and put it in the toaster, thinking about parents and social movements and how you're torn, always torn. And you're doing it for your kids, but then you're away from them, distracted. Grace Paley, Tilly Olson, those writer activist moms. Also my grandfather. Tilly Olson wrote Silences, and I don't know if anyone reads that book anymore, but she was active in labor stuff in the 1930s in San Francisco and wrote about a life spent working and caring for kids instead of writing. Her book is very precious to me. I found it by accident in a box of free books on someone's lawn, I think in Somerville, Massachusetts, where I lived after college in the 1990s. And I realized afterward how important she was to the wider world of activists. I think a lot, have thought a lot about what it means to be truly inclusive of families in activist work, which has been one of the big puzzles of my life. How I had to pull back when my son Ivan was tiny, versus the idea that you shouldn't have had kids because the world is ending. Or sure, the random abstract idea of bringing your kids to every action and meeting, which I tried to do until I found myself with my boob out breastfeeding an infant in the middle of a meeting at a plumbers union local in Columbus, Ohio, in a snowstorm. Then there's the fact that I'm not an endless resource, and I needed money and had limited time and energy. And yet I get frustrated too at people who would say raising my kids is my activism. In a way, I get it, but in another way, come on. So as I stir my coffee, I weigh whether to chime in on the text chain, that I'm in the same situation, and I consider how I would phrase a text. I really don't want to mess up Ivan's driving permit test, which matters a lot to him, but I don't want to get into a text war among activists. On some level, I'm afraid of everyone, which is hilarious considering the fact that my face has been on the news for screaming myself hoarse at demonstrations. How I believe so much in group action, but individually I'm kind of a weenie. Maybe this is how it should be, because we give each other courage. Okay, that's a good place to stop.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sonya. Incredible stuff. Oh. So interesting.
Cheers.
Yes, cheers.
I love that. I love the just like the breaking down the whole life of an activist down to these moments that people don't think about, right? I mean, you either see it on the news or you read about it or whatever, and all these moments are left out.
Right.
It's just all these people mysteriously appeared.
Right.
They didn't have to cancel their classes or any of that. They didn't have even to take a
They
class.
didn't even plan it. They just appeared.
They just appear. So the second half of the book is that I brilliantly scheduled the court date at the same time, the same day that my son had his permit test.
Yes.
I had to go down for court and then get back to Connecticut so that he could get his permit. That's a big deal in his world. It was a bad day, but it was fine.
Oh, no. That is so interesting. All of that juxtaposition and the story of you growing up and these details and these images of you in all of these moments of activism, and that contrast, the challenge between wanting to do that and kind of just needing to be elsewhere and focus on other things. Totally get that. That's so powerful and so it's so interesting, so real. Yeah, thank you so much, Sonya. And we are moving into our Q&A time. But before we do, let's have another round of applause for both Stephanie Dickinson and Sonya Huber.
Stephanie, we're both Midwestern girls who got out.
I noticed. I heard.
Cool.
I really enjoyed the piece and really admired it. And I was particularly struck by the joy that you were witnessing, and it was incredible. Yes, absolutely, Stephanie. Where she said there was a
a quote I wrote down. Like, I didn't count on the joy. Like, I didn't expect to see that. Absolutely, that caught me too, Stephanie. So awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing both of your pieces. Just incredibly vivid and powerful. Realism. I didn't want anything to end. Just intense and fascinating, very real stuff. Okay, while everyone out there is putting questions in the chat, okay, all of you out there putting fabulous questions in the chat, I will get us started. I'm pointing at them, Chris.
I know you are. You're scaring them.
You better put questions. No, I know they will. But I would love to start with what's kind of become our usual first question, which is how has it been for you during this last crazy year and a few months of working from home, working remotely, remote readings, canceled events? How has your writing been? Have there been any silver linings through this time?
And illness, because Sonya got slammed.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I had long COVID.
so
So
a lot of people either have been sick or they've known people, close, loved ones or whatever. And, those of us who've been lucky enough to kind of get through without dealing with that stuff, we forget sometimes. It's just been about, how it's so lonely, right?
Right. It's like, well, some people are dealing with a very serious medical condition and also tragedy. And I mean, it's been a hard time.
So Stephanie, you were working from home. You usually go into the office and you have that.
I'm still working from home. In September, I think we get a new office and we're going back. And the pandemic has really shown businesses that they want a hybrid model now. People in the office, people working from home. So no one's going to have a set cubicle anymore. It's going to be all hotel seating, coming and going, and so much more of a hybrid kind of thing. But to me, it's been very rough working from my red room because it's big accounting files and I just weak Wi-Fi, and you're supposed to have, so but on a more serious level, Rob has an autoimmune liver condition, and and he really with the autoimmune, you don't want to affect that your immune system response, so he can't get the vaccine, and so he's like stressing a little bit about being the only guy in the world with a mask on out there. But
yeah,
we'll see how that all. It's just been quite a year for so many people.
Yeah. And what about you're like an insanely prolific writer. How has this affected
writing been?
With the job, we've been working like 10, 11-hour days, I guess, so it's been more, has it actually been more of a fight to get my writing time, and I stay up God's late hour to work because I just don't want to be totally sucked in and used up by my job.
Right, and you don't even have that kind of like distance of like going to the office and coming home a separate space, a separate time. That's really hard.
Two brand new books out, but so those were probably written, at least the bulk of them written before Hellboy.
Right, and the Razor Wire Wilderness was picked up by a Texas press, Callisto Bio, and they've just, and they've been wonderful. I mean, they had an editor. We went through the whole thing. I mean, so I was doing a lot of edits. They wanted to add me to the book, which wasn't there, and so we had to do that. But
interesting.
Yeah. So, and I don't know if it works or not. Some people like it, and some people really don't like it.
We're going to get back to that because I find that really interesting. But that was a good experience with working with them.
Oh, wonderful! They even paid for a publicist.
Wow!
I've never had anything like that before.
Awesome! Congratulations!
I'm not sure it did any good, but it's like they were wonderful. They're wonderful people, and I really, really think those just tell the world they're superb. Yeah,
that is awesome.
Great story. So Sonya, what was your experience like? We know you got slammed by the whole.
Yeah, but I I mean, I guess the one good thing for me is I just sort of threw myself into writing like a life raft. So I wrote a lot during the pandemic because I didn't really have much energy to do anything else. So, but yeah, now I'm feeling a lot better and I can, walk around and stuff again. But it was super scary. And I think too, it was like, I was talking about this with some friends. It seems like it was scarier for us here in the Northeast, and we experienced it in a different way than maybe people in the other parts of the country because it was so concentrated and so overwhelming and intense. So that's, I think, something that geographically it's hard to explain to, people who are in other areas.
Yeah.
I agree with you. New York was the epicenter, and we experienced this insane increase. And at the time, certain folks in Washington were pretty antagonistic towards the Northeast, and that was upsetting on top of upsetting. I think you're absolutely right. But thank goodness you were able to produce incredible writing during that time. There's a silver lining right there. Thank goodness you're okay.
Thank you.
Goodness you're okay, and thank goodness you've been able to stay safe, and Rob too, Stephanie. Absolutely. I'm dying to ask. So Stephanie, you are a multi-genre person, just absolutely incredible. And I'm a poet, so I would love to ask a bit about your poetry, but maybe I want to go a little further back. How did you first come to writing? How did you get into writing? Did you start with a particular genre over another one? And then maybe also, how did you get into publishing as well? That's probably a very long story, but whatever you're willing to share.
My father died when I was young, and my mother always said he was a conservation biologist, but my mother said, oh, he wrote poetry in his spare time. And I think when you have a deceased parent, and you think poetry, a poet, that's the highest thing you could ever aspire to, that it's like the sacred kind of thing. So in college.
Stephanie, is your middle name Emily?
Yes, and my Emily Dickinson is my name. But
so there you go.
And Emily Dickinson is my mother's favorite poet. But so I started with poetry, and I've also loved a lyrical prose style, which isn't very popular right now, but I do love it. And
I could hear that lyrical quality even when you were writing about this horrific crime. It pulled me in, and it was absolutely intense and upsetting, but at the same time so incredibly vivid and incredibly human. I could hear that in there as much as in your poems, with all of these incredibly gorgeous metaphors. Just awesome stuff.
As far as publishing is concerned, I think it was around 2006.
Yeah.
A friend of ours, Rosalind Palermo Stevenson, we were talked about, perhaps a press, and I had so many friends whose work that I just loved, and I thought, well, why not start a press for people whose work falls between the cracks of what is published by the major houses. So.
Awesome. That is so great. And look at this guy over here. Carry On and Shriver. What? That is so
it's just fantastic, isn't it? Oh my goodness.
So awesome. So awesome. So cool. So cool too. To have you here and just hear that little bit of that publishing story. Sonya, what about you? Maybe the same kind of question. How did you get into writing? I feel like it must have happened absolutely alongside of that activism, as a vehicle for it, as an outlet for it, as a way to express it. You tell me though.
It was real. Well, it was actually, I started in poetry when I was like young. And then I had spent a long time in fiction and was like, okay, I'm a fiction writer. And then I was just doing journalism alongside. And this was like back in the late 20th century. before creative nonfiction was really even in higher ed. And so then as a journalist, I was in grad school and everybody was like, oh, you got to take a creative nonfiction class. And then my mind was blown. But yeah, no, I love all three genres, and I love
So cool.
I also really love lyrical writing, and I don't consider myself a poet because I hold the poets in awe, but I like to try and work on the sentences so that they have lyrical quality too.
Absolutely. Oh, and I can hear that too. We're just kind of taken away by each of these, by each of the narratives that you shared when you shared the narrative qualities. But that's very interesting. I think we have two like triple threat in terms of genres tonight. This is incredible.
That's right. Me and Stephanie.
That's like 6 threats right there. I don't even know what you call that.
In our black tank tops, like badasses.
I know. These badass from the Midwest.
That's right.
Love it.
Those are the baddest asses of all.
That's right. Well, Chris teases poet. He makes little jokes about poets. He's like, "Oh, the poets." But did you hear how highly they each spoke of poets and poetry? Chris?
You know I love.
I know you respect.
Oh, I make fun of
respectful. That's so funny. That's
part
awesome.
of my job because I don't write poetry and I'm jealous. That's all it is. Envy of all the money.
Your prose is very lyrical.
What's that?
Yeah.
I think your poetry, your fiction is very lyrical. It's just lovely.
Well, thank you.
Yes,
Coming
I
from
agree.
you.
Stephanie, I'd love to ask you, how did you get connected to this particular story, this crime? How did you get connected to that young woman? What sort of came first? The news story, the desire to write about it, share with us, I guess, a little bit about how he got started on that. Fascinated to know.
It was a story that wouldn't allow me to let it go because of those two girls who had made those mistakes, and so I wrote a short story. Then I worked on a fictional novel, and then when I finished it, just about finished it, someone said, well, "Why don't you contact Crystal?"
Whoa!
Just never really, and so then I called AMCF and I got her ID number and I wrote her, and I said, "How are you? I've been wondering how you are. How are you feeling?" And then I talked a little about myself, and she wrote right back, and that started it, and it's just been years now, and so and some good things have happened for Crystal in the sense that some of the pieces I've published in online journals have brought people back into her life that want to help her. So from her childhood.
Wow. That's
Stephanie,
incredible.
You mentioned in the section it's from the early part of the book where you do talk about yourself, which I guess your editor was encouraging you to do, and your own personal experiences, and made a connection that you seem to be exploring between yourself and Crystal in terms of choices made when you were young, in terms of the wrong man. And I mean, you go into some detail in there. You've written about that a lot.
Yeah, I have.
Your experiences. But I'm just wondering, did you see that connection with her, and was that why you couldn't let it go? Was this like I could have been her, kind of?
Well, I felt that I was both of them, Jennifer and
Yes.
Crystal.
Wow.
That was the thing. It was a Siamese twin kind of thing. I thought I'm impulsive and made choices that were like Jennifer, and I was like, and Crystal always said she's a people pleaser, and I'm like that too. And she said I'm weak-minded, and so there were things about Crystal that I saw myself too.
Wow.
You know, but what I could, and I have written about the shooting and so much, and so I really didn't want to put it into the book, but I think that the editor might have been afraid that the issue of appropriation might have come up, that why was I taking these stories, and without putting my own skin on the table, and so that was part of it.
Yeah.
Oh, very interesting. Wow. So Sonya, I know that you've written about I'm going to forget the exact word for it. Please forgive me. You've written about living with pain, about illness.
Uh-huh.
What is
That's perfect? That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know it's a specific kind of illness, and I'm so sorry for.
You can also call it the shittiness.
Yeah. You've written so compellingly and so relatably about participating in activism, and I want to read more from that book. I am curious about whether you are writing anything or have written about the experience of having COVID, the experience of this time, COVID and activism. I'm curious because there have been so many, for example, last summer, all of these incredible Black Lives Matter protests all over the world during a pandemic. I'm wondering, have you tackled these?
Yeah. So I've been I started after the pandemic started. I had started like a mutual aid group just in my town with a couple other people.
Yes.
And so we did that, and that got really busy. But then it has turned out, so I have another project that I'm working on that's been like a long-term project. It's like a 6 or 7 year project about inequality in Fairfield County.
Yes.
And so pieces of not so much the pandemic, but pieces of like the activism of last summer have like snuck into that book. But then the experience of COVID, like I kind of done this with other, with other really hard subjects. I'm such a fan of Brevity, the online journal of brief nonfiction, which is affiliated with Fairfield UMFA.
Oh my God!
And I love Brevity because it just offers such a little window. Like, it's so unintimidating to be like, okay, I can write 750 words on this, right? Yeah. And so that's been my entry point with multiple hard subjects, is like, can I just write a paragraph?
Right.
And so I've been trying to do that because I've been trying to write about COVID. But I'm still, I think, I'm in sort of the later stages of still like processing it, and really understanding what it meant.
Yeah.
So I have had a couple small pieces published, but, usually like I'm not yet excited to write about it at all. Like, I think that might come later, but I also just feel like, it'll take some time, I think. Yeah.
That totally makes sense to me. I feel like we all suddenly we were all in quarantine, and we were all trying to like just comfort each other and move everything online. And then we like got through all these months just watching the numbers go crazy. Then we got excited about vaccinations, and we're sort of like, I know what you mean. I'm kind of just saying, like, as I'm going out more, like, what happened to my life?
Yeah, one of the pieces that I wrote was just like one of the main images was just looking at that New York Times map. And do you remember like all the red circles?
Yeah.
Like, that was like my world, like my window into reality, I'm sure, like it was for so many people, know? So yeah, but I can only do it in sort of snapshots so far.
Yeah. Interesting. That makes sense, though.
I have a question. I'm not even sure if this is going to be coherent, but no, because you've both written. I mean, what would you say? Like, why start now being coherent? What? No.
No, I said we'll help you. I said we'll help you.
Oh, okay.
That's terrible. I would never say that.
I know you wouldn't say it. Both of you, Stephanie and Sonya, have written about dealing with pain and chronic pain. I mean, Sonya, your book it's in the title, even, and Stephanie, you were a survivor of this horrific incident and left, scarred and in pain. You've written a lot about that, and very movingly. And here's where I get incoherent. I'm just thinking of, I don't know if it was the last time I saw you, Sonya, or maybe, I don't know if it was or not, but it was in prison.
Oh yeah.
Sonya came into the prison where I run around.
Where you were teaching.
Yeah.
This is a few years ago now, and after that book had just come out, and a whole bunch of the guys in there, the incarcerated guys, had read that book and had this amazing discussion with you.
It was incredible. Yeah.
Very, very moving. And I didn't know what to expect. And I was there kind of as a guest. It wasn't part of my workshop, but I knew all those guys from my workshop. So I knew how thoughtful they were and everything. But I never know what's their take going to be on anything, because they can be like really unpredictable. But they were so connected to what we wrote about. And I just found that so interesting. And now here you are, Stephanie, with this long relationship with prison. And all this leads to not even, I don't even know what the question is, but it's like, what's the connection there between you?
Kind of synchronous.
Like
There always is between our guests. There's some serendipitous connection.
Yes. Well, there's your pain of these people in this, it's horrendous what these people go through in jail, even when they've done terrible things and whatever, and they do time, but it's the way that system works is so awful. And there seems to be some sort of connection with the way that you guys are writing about pain.
Yes.
And how they see you. And this is where I need help, Katie.
No, but I'm following it. I'm following it. I feel like it's
what are your thoughts there?
That gets it. I feel like yes, absolutely. I feel like there's a similarity here between the way that we're talking about pain being being human and understanding that.
You guys, because of your situations, you understand something that overlaps with what they understand, even if it's not a physical kind of pain that they have, although some do.
A lot of empathy here.
Well, and I think with both, there's a lot of stigma, right? About being sort of like people have a lot of sort of judgments about people in pain, and so we have difficulty getting support or getting services or getting medication, right? And then there's similar with anybody. I hate the word. I discussed this later in the book after we spend a chunk of time in the jail cell, which is only 10 hours, but it's my first time in jail. And then connected to someone who I'm very close with, who was in jail for longer. And just think about the stigma of the word felon, right?
Right.
And it connects to me with the stigma of disability, with a lot of unnecessary barriers that that people put up because things feel uncomfortable. That's I guess one connection.
Right. Absolutely. There's and it's like these labels that that just mean difficult, that mean painful, that mean oh, I don't want to hear that, oh, I don't want to deal with that. This person has needs, issues, problems, a story that I don't want to deal with. And that's not something that either of you are shying away from here. You're telling that story, you're engaging with it, you're helping other people, hopefully, to understand and have empathy and have mercy and have understanding, in a human way for other people, whatever the stigma is. That's a really powerful thing. That's a really awesome thing.
I wanted to mention that another person profiled in my book is Lucy Weems, who's a great friend of Crystal's, and she's just a brilliant woman who's now out and doing fabulously.
Hmm.
But she talked about the medical systems in prison are just awful.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
So many people, Crystal said, so many people are released and they die as soon as they get out.
Jesus.
But Lucy had a tumor under her arm, and she had to have a hysterectomy while she was incarcerated. And they were taken to Robert Johnson Hospital in Newark, and also St. Francis. And she said that the guards would walk you shackled and handcuffed in through the front door, in through the lobby, in your arm, and people would look. And she had one mother put her hand in front of her daughter's eyes so she wouldn't see Lucy, and Lucy felt so ashamed of that. And I think sometimes when your disability is visible, like mine is, and people like at the workplace that you know that are your friends, and they will still not look at your eyes but look at that, and it reminds me of that sort of put your hands in front of your eyes to avert your gaze. So I think there is something about chronic pain that understands pain of the prison.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my goodness, Chris, a powerful night, Chris. Powerful night of readings and
I know.
awesome discussion here.
We're laughing too. We're having a great
I
time.
love it. Yes. Oh, we've had the range.
We cried.
Awesome stuff.
I'm gonna order Sonia's book about chronic. When I saw it, I thought, oh wow, look at this.
Yeah, I'm very excited to read your stuff too, Stephanie. I feel like we're sisters from another mother.
Yes. All right. And all you out there in the audience, you need to get their books as well. I'm pointing again, Chris. Oh my goodness. Chris, should we I feel like
Go for it.
we should maybe get into our famous last question and just give them some time, because we have a little bit of time here before our typical end time. And maybe they could, elaborate on a pearl. Maybe they could give us two pearls of wisdom.
Sometimes people do.
True.
Yes, this is what we like to ask our esteemed guests. This final question, which is a double question. The double question. So, first part of the quiz. Don't get confused. It's hard because I get incoherent. It's easy to get confused.
Chris, you are perfect. You are perfect. You are stellar. We understand you, Chris.
I don't know about perfect. I don't want to be perfect. But anyway, part one. Pearls of wisdom for writers. Now, Sonya, of course, you've taught for a while now. You're a very hugely popular teacher at Fairfield University. Stephanie, you've been in workshops forever and have dispensed pearls of wisdom. But today, what would be your pearl of wisdom for those folks out there watching who are struggling away, trying to write their masterpiece? And then the second part, and the second part is easy. A book recommendation.
Oh.
Well, I should say it's not that easy, but it's easy to say. Stephanie, pearl of wisdom.
I think that when you're out there trying to write your manuscript, I think the writer's studio, Philip Schultz, with saying you have a shitbird on your shoulder that will be saying, no, your super ego or whatever. This is bad. Don't listen and just keep on going. And I think something interesting Sonya said about trying the small as springboards into, if you get stuck or something, that the small will take you into the larger, and relax a little bit and enjoy it and trust your voice, I think. Knock the shitbird off your shoulder.
I love that.
I think about that shitbird all the time. He's still there, Stephanie, but sometimes I'm able to
shut him up.
Put a little black hood over him, and
knock him on the shoulder.
Stephanie, what's a good book that you can recommend?
Oh my goodness, there's just like so many of them. Right now, I'm reading a small book by William Maxwell. So long, see you
Oh
tomorrow.
yes, yes,
You know, it's a little classic, and
yes.
and
Mm.
that was just a beautiful little gem. I think it's definitely a recommendation.
Yeah.
Great.
Writing it down.
All right, Sonya,
Thank you, Stephanie.
pearl of wisdom.
Pearls of wisdom. Well, I mean, I guess the thing that I rely on is that, you know, I write for an hour a day when I can on weekdays, but I have zero standards for what happens during that hour.
Wow.
So, like, I'm allowed to go on Twitter, I'm allowed to watch the birds, I'm allowed to just sort of stare into space. And like usually what happens is after 15 minutes, I get bored enough to start playing with sentences. But as long as I've done that, but in the seat for an hour, like everything else just happens. So like, yeah, like that all counts as writing to me. I think
Nice.
I've talked to so many students who are like, am I a writer? Am I really a writer? When will I know I'm a writer? I feel like as long as you're trying, you know, if you're
Yes.
giving yourself the hour. So.
That's a great pearl, and that's almost like a meditative practice. Like I'm going to sit here for an hour, and actually whatever I do is okay. And you're going to end up writing, and it's going
Right.
to be worthwhile. That whole time is worthwhile. I love it.
Awesome.
Right.
And
Don't
then
you-
I guess in keeping with Stephanie's reading, it made me think so much of this book I haven't looked at in a while. By I think it's Beverly Lowry. It's called Crossed Over: A Murder, a Mystery, a Memoir. It's about a correspondence between the author Beverly Lowry and a woman. I think was it a woman who was incarcerated as part of a murder thing, and then like. But it's cool because going with what you were saying, Stephanie, it's also about her own family story and then how it sort of, you know, crosses into the relationship with the person she's corresponding with in prison. But, you know, just a really a fascinating example of, I think, how so much of what a lot of people are doing in memoir is exploring the nature of subjectivity itself, right? Like what am I writing about and why am I writing and how is the act of writing changing who I am, kind of a thing.
Right.
Have you been, you know, Janet Malcolm died this week, and
Right.
Oh.
and I've been because of that, I've been sort of like reading stuff that that she had published in the New Yorker, and it's just such amazing stuff in terms of the idea of like journalism,
Yeah,
and what's the role of the journalist, and in terms of like, you know, how do you get at the truth,
yeah,
right? And just how, you know, it's this exploitative process.
Yeah.
So how do you do it in a way that's, you know, morally okay and still arrive at the truth? It's all such great stuff.
yeah. And I tend to agree with what Stephanie was saying about how, right, like in some ways, I use a lot of research in my own work, and I love the fact that we put our own stories out there, you know, that sort of like.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Awesome stuff. Well, thank you so much.
You
What
guys so
fun.
much.
Thank you so much, Stephanie and Sonya, for reading tonight, for being here, for answering our questions, for talking with us. It was such an incredible evening. One more round of applause.
Thank you.
I wish I could. That's whoa.
Hilarious.
I love hearing you mention Tilly Olsen. I haven't heard that name. in a while.
Oh.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much to both of you for being here tonight.
Thank
Thank
you,
you to our audience. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Really, really lovely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our
Thank you guys
pleasure.
for being here. It was a great night.
Yeah. And you have to go on Facebook and YouTube and just see all the comments and the love from everybody who's been here tonight. And of course, to share it with people who weren't able to make it, both on our Facebook page and on YouTube as well. So come back next Sunday night. It's going to be Put It Into Chat night on FUMFA Poets and Writers Live. We're so excited for that. And everybody have a good night. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great night. Thank
You guys
you.
stick around. Don't go anywhere.